Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. One question that I get asked every day almost is that am I eligible for express entry programs? So I decided to make one video based on the official web page where they will give you a comparison between all the programs. Now, just to give you a heads up, if you get selected by a PNP program that is related to your express entry profile, then obviously the 600 points will be added to your express entry profile. Okay, and even if you're a FSW worker, you would be getting selected in a PNP draw. So this was just a heads up. Now let's dig deep into the three programs that come under Canadian Express Entry. So basically, Express Entry is an online system that IRCC uses to manage applications for permanent residents for three programs. These three programs are FSW, FST, and CEC. Okay, now we are going to compare the key differences between all these programs. Okay, so the two terms you need to know is obviously Canadian Language Benchmark CLB, that is different from your IELTS bands, that is different from your TEF score. This is the Canadian Language Benchmark. So I have two videos on it. If you have not already watched those, then I suggest you watch them first. And then National Occupation Classification, that is the NOC code. Now, I know that people are going to comment that NOC code is going to change, but it has not changed. And maybe it will not change for another 7, 8 months. So, I mean, we cannot really talk about it unless it is implemented. So, currently, this is the scenario. I can actually show it to you right here. Yeah, this is the scenario currently. The NOC is a list of all the occupations in the Canadian labor market, and skill type 0, A, B, C, D. These are what matters right now. Okay, so the eligibility criteria for all the three programs, FST, FSW, CEC. Language skills. For if you want to become a Canadian experience class, then you need to have a CLB 7. If your NOC is 0 or A, if you are in a senior position, if you're working in a senior position, then you need a CLB 7 in English or French. Or if your NOC code is B, then you can have CLB 5 and it has no problem. But for Federal Skilled Worker Program, FSW, you need to have at least CLB 7 even if your NOC code is B, and it could be either in English or in French. Okay, the next up is FST, Federal Skilled Trades Program, and you need to have CLB 5 for speaking and listening, and CLB 4 for reading and writing. Now, this is an interesting one because obviously these are low skilled programs, like not low skilled programs, but there is not much need to communicate with your customers in these kind of jobs. So that is why the CLB level is quite low as compared to the Federal Skilled Worker Program. Now, the next up on the eligibility criteria is level of work experience. Okay, so for Canadian experience class, as the name shows, you need to have a Canadian experience in one of these NOC codes, 0, A or B. Okay, if you have NOC code C or D, you will not be eligible neither for express entry Canadian experience class, not for FSW, not for FST. Okay, and for Federal Skilled Worker Program, you need to have Canadian or foreign experience in one of these NOC codes, that is 0A or B. Okay, and the eligibility criteria for FST program is that your experience must be under skill level NOC B. Okay, so if you have a NOC B, then you can either be a federal skilled trade worker or you can be a federal skilled worker. Okay, depending on the NOC code exactly and what your English skills are and what your other things are. Now let's continue reading so that you can differentiate everything. Amount of work experience. Okay, let's keep the page here. Amount of work experience. 1 year in Canada in the last 3 years. So if the experience is more than 3 years and then you left Canada and you moved back to your country and 3 years have passed, then you could be federal skilled worker for that matter. Okay, so 1 year continuous work experience within the last 10 years is FSW requirement. Okay, so now I'm not talking about the selection criteria. This is the eligibility criteria. So if you have 1 year continuous work experience within the last 10 years, then you're eligible to apply. Okay. So if you have less than 1 year, then you will not be eligible unless you work part time, and that will be like 15 hours a week. Then you would need to work 2 years to become eligible. So that's the point about it. And in your primary occupation, of course, you cannot choose an occupation or no code without having 1 years of experience in that no code. Otherwise, you won't be eligible for that. Okay. Okay. And FST program, 2 years within last 5 years. So they want your experience to be relatively newer for FST program, and it could be a combination of full-time or part-time work, as I just explained. Now, job offer. Job offer is for CEC class, it is not required. Okay. For FSW program, it is not required, but you can get selection criteria, the FSW points, or we say them the CRS points for having a valid job offer. That could be 50 points or 200 points. But it is not required, and you will be eligible even if you don't have a job offer. And for FST, now this is the difference, right? The job offer is required. A valid job offer of full time employment for a total period of at least 1 year, or a COQ in that skill trade issued by a Canadian provincial, territorial, or federal authority. I have a detailed video on federal skilled trade program. So if you were wondering how to get about it, then watch that video. I recommend it. Now, the education. Education is basically not required for CEC class. Now we know that all the students that go to Canada, they get their work permit after completing their studies, and based on that experience inside Canada, then they become CEC class. Not just by simply studying in Canada, you will not become CEC, okay? Because education is not required to become a CEC candidate. Now, secondary education is required for federal skilled worker program, and you can get more selection criteria, FSW points, for your post secondary education, that is your university education. And we know that the maximum points are allotted for PhD, and then for master's degree, or for the professional equivalency. Now, for FST, education is not required. So I hope in this short video, you would be able to now differentiate all these three programs that come under express entry. Okay. So for example, if you're a FSW worker, if you are eligible for express entry profile creation, then you must create that express entry profile. And when you apply for a PNP program, by creating an NOI, by creating an EOI, expression of interest, then you would obviously link it with your express entry profile. Okay. And when you get 600 points, those 600 points will be added to your CRS, and then you will be getting selected through express entry. So like most of the PNP programs, many PNP programs, they come under express entry program. Let me give you an example. Ontario PNP, Alberta PNP, Saskatchewan PNP, Manitoba PNP, okay, even Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, all of these, when you create your expression of interest, whether you have a job offer or not, there is an option to link your express entry profile with that, and that comes under express entry programs. And as the name suggests, it is an express entry program, meaning your processing, your application, the timelines, all will be express instead of going for a paper application, which will be away from the express entry programs. You could be looking at a long halt or a long delay, so you wouldn't want to wait that long. So express entry is the way to go. If you're not eligible for express entry, then I suggest if you don't have a relative in Saskatchewan, for that matter, or in Manitoba, then I suggest you look for other options. Forget about going through the immigration programs. Then you need to choose education option, or you need to improve your language skills. These are the only two things that you need to do. Going for a job offer, that will only lead you to a scam. I know many people who got themselves scammed, so I don't recommend doing it. Please don't go for that. Now, yeah, this was all about it, the differentiation between all the express entry programs. This is Ali Iftikhar, wishing you guys all the best.